The orbital shipyards of New Vancouver hung like a constellation of human ambition against the obsidian backdrop of space. Massive construction rings rotated with surgical precision, each movement a testament to generations of engineering excellence. At the heart of this celestial workshop, the Tsunami took shape, not merely a ship, but the culmination of humanity's most audacious technological dream. Elena Rodriguez stood behind the quantum glass observation deck, her reflection fragmented by layers of advanced optics. Her fingers traced holographic schematics that danced and shifted with impossible complexity. 37 years of her life had been poured into this moment, a career that began in the crowded research labs of Sao Paulo and culminated here at the bleeding edge of human innovation. The ship's genesis traced back to the dark decade, those critical years when humanity faced near extinction. Climate collapse, resource wars, and the first devastating extrasolar conflicts had pushed human civilization to the brink. But from that crucible of desperation emerged something extraordinary, a collective human resolve that transformed survival into an art of innovation. The Tsunami represented more than a technological achievement. It was a living memory of humanity's most challenging period. Each system a response to a specific near-fatal encounter, each component engineered from the lessons of survival. Dr. Chen Wei, the quantum interface specialist, approached Elena with a data crystal that glimmered like a captured star. "The neural adaptive matrix is showing unprecedented stability," he said, his voice a mixture of excitement and professional restraint. "We've successfully integrated the quantum consciousness protocols developed from the Mars colony resilience studies." Elena nodded, understanding the depth of what that meant. The Mars colony had been humanity's first true test of survival beyond Earth, a settlement that survived against impossible odds through adaptive thinking and collective problem-solving. Those colonists had developed communication and survival techniques that redefined human potential, and now those lessons were being coded into the very essence of the Tsunami. The ship's hull was unlike anything in Galactic records. Composed of a metamaterial that could dynamically restructure at the molecular level, it represented a fundamental reimagining of spacecraft design. Traditional alien vessels were built with rigid architecture, fixed systems that could be targeted and disabled. The Tsunami was different. It was more akin to a living organism, with systems that could redistribute, adapt, and transform in milliseconds. "Run Simulation Gamma 9, Elena commanded. The holographic display erupted into a complex three-dimensional model that mapped potential encounter scenarios. Millions of computational threads explored potential strategic responses, each pathway a potential future negotiated at the speed of quantum thought. A team of engineers worked in near-silent concentration. Some were veterans of the extrasolar conflicts, their bodies marked with cybernetic enhancements that spoke of previous battles. Others were young researchers, their eyes bright with the promise of pushing human capabilities beyond known limits. Nearby, a memorial wall displayed the names of those who had made this moment possible: scientists, colonists, and explorers who had sacrificed everything to ensure humanity's survival and expansion. The Tsunami was their legacy, constructed from the knowledge and resilience they had accumulated. "We're ready for the quantum resonance test," announced Dr. Maria Santos, the ship's primary systems architect. Her voice carried the calm confidence of someone who had rewritten fundamental laws of physics multiple times in her career. The shipyard fell into a peculiar silence. Even the massive construction rings seemed to pause, recognizing the significance of the moment. This was more than a test. This was humanity declaring its place in the cosmos, not through aggression, but through unparalleled technological innovation. Elena Rodriguez took a deep breath. The Tsunami represented everything humanity had learned, everything they had survived, and everything they could become. Captain Marcus Chen's neural interface hummed with a soft, almost melodic vibration. The bridge of the Tsunami was unlike any command center in human or alien history. A fluid environment that responded to thought as much as touch. Holographic displays wrapped around him like a living skin, each projection a window into potential futures. The Crex Imperium's latest transmission flickered at the edge of human-controlled space. Marcus studied the encrypted message, his augmented perception parsing layers of meaning beyond simple linguistic translation. The Crex were not just another alien civilization. They were a predatory collective that had systematically consumed or destroyed dozens of emerging spacefaring societies. 3 colonial outposts had already fallen to their advance. Preliminary reports suggested complete systemic destruction, not just the elimination of human presence, but a methodical erasure of infrastructure, data, and potential. Lieutenant Aisha Okoro, the ship's primary strategic analyst, projected a holographic map of recent Crex movements. Her fingers danced through the projection, highlighting intricate patterns of expansion. "Their approach is systematic," she noted, her voice calm but laden with professional concern. "They're not just conquering territory. They're eliminating potential competition before it can fully develop." Marcus understood the deeper implications. The Crex saw emerging civilizations as potential threats to be neutralized, not as potential partners or sources of unique perspective. It was a fundamentally different approach to galactic exploration, one that stood in stark contrast to humanity's collaborative ethos. The quantum consciousness core of the Tsunami began to process the incoming data. Unlike traditional ship's computers, this was a living computational system that could interpret strategic scenarios with a level of nuance that bordered on prescience. It wasn't just analyzing potential conflict, it was understanding the complex ecological and sociological dynamics that drove the Crex's expansionist behavior. A subtle alert emerged, not a traditional warning, but a complex mathematical probability matrix that suggested multiple potential intervention strategies. The ship was literally thinking through diplomatic and defensive options faster than any biological intelligence could comprehend. "They're going to attempt a standard containment protocol," Marcus murmured, more to himself than to the crew. The neural interface allowed for near telepathic communication, transforming the bridge into a unified cognitive environment. Lieutenant Okoro raised an eyebrow. Containment or elimination? The distinction was critical. Containment suggested the possibility of future negotiation. Elimination meant total systemic destruction. Historical records of previous Crex encounters told a grim story. Entire civilizations reduced to computational ghosts, their technological infrastructure systematically dismantled. But humanity had learned from those encounters. The Tsunami represented more than a defensive weapon. It was a living repository of adaptive strategy. The ship's quantum adaptive camouflage began to initialize. This was not simple visual deception, but a complex mathematical transformation that could fundamentally alter the vessel's quantum signature. To traditional sensors, the Tsunami could become anything from background radiation to a small asteroid cluster. "Prepare communication protocols," Marcus commanded. The words were almost unnecessary. The ship's systems were already constructing multi-layered communication strategies that went far beyond traditional diplomatic exchanges. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez, head of Sinolinguistic Systems, began preparing a response. His specialty wasn't just translation, but the complex art of interspecies communication. Years of study had revealed that true understanding went far beyond simple language exchange. The Crex transmission continued to pulse, a rhythmic challenge that spoke of centuries of unchallenged galactic dominance. They did not expect resistance. They certainly did not expect what the Tsunami represented. Marcus Chen allowed himself the slightest smile. The Crex were about to learn that humanity's approach to conflict was fundamentally different from anything they had encountered before. The first energy discharge from the Crex fleet illuminated the void of space like a momentary sun, a weapon designed to shred molecular structures across astronomical distances. Traditional defensive systems would have attempted to deflect or absorb the attack. The Tsunami did something entirely different. At the precise moment of weapon discharge, the ship's quantum adaptive matrix began its intricate dance. Mathematical algorithms calculated not just the trajectory of incoming energy, but the fundamental quantum states that defined the attack itself. Lieutenant Aisha Okoro watched in fascination as the ship's systems transformed the very nature of spatial-temporal interactions. Quantum displacement initiating, announced the ship's neural interface. But this was an understatement that failed to capture the true complexity of what was happening. The tsunami wasn't simply moving out of the weapon's path, it was rewriting the fundamental parameters of the engagement. Each potential attack trajectory became a complex problem to be solved, not a threat to be avoided. The ship's computational core processed millions of potential scenarios per microsecond, treating the incoming energy as a form of communication rather than an act of aggression. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring from the Orbital Command Center, leaned forward. Her life's work was playing out in real time, a demonstration of humanity's most advanced technological thinking. The tsunami represented more than a defensive system. It was a living proof of humanity's capacity to transform conflict into a form of dialogue. The Krex fleet's sensor systems began to malfunction in ways that defied traditional understanding. Where they expected to see a single target, they now perceived multiple potential locations, each mathematically viable, each existing in a state of quantum uncertainty. It was as if the tsunami had become a living probability theorem. Adaptive camouflage at maximum efficiency, reported Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, tracking the ship's impossible movements. The tsunami was creating a form of spatial-temporal misdirection that went beyond traditional stealth technologies. Marcus Chen's neural interface allowed him to perceive the engagement on multiple levels simultaneously. He could see the raw mathematical interactions, feel the computational flows, and understand the strategic implications with a depth that transcended traditional human perception. The Krex commanders found themselves confronting a fundamental problem. Their targeting systems were designed around fixed parameters of space, time, and matter. The tsunami existed in a state that challenged those very parameters. Each attempt to lock onto the ship resulted in increasingly complex computational feedback loops. "They're trying to understand," Marcus murmured. And indeed, the Krex fleet's computational systems were working overtime, attempting to deconstruct the impossible data they were receiving. It was less a battle and more a complex mathematical dialogue. Quantum entanglement systems within the tsunami began to interact with the Krex ship's communication networks. This wasn't an attack in any traditional sense. It was a form of forced communication, a way of introducing complex informational patterns that would challenge the Krex's fundamental understanding of spaceflight and strategic engagement. Lieutenant Okoro tracked the engagement's progression. "They're experiencing computational dissonance," she reported. The phrase was clinical, but it described a profound technological encounter. The Krex were confronting a form of intelligence that operated on principles entirely foreign to their understanding. The ship's adaptive systems continued their impossible dance. Energy weapons that should have destroyed the tsunami instead found themselves redirected, their fundamental quantum states subtly altered. It was as if the ship was having a conversation with the incoming weaponry, negotiating its own existence at the most fundamental level of physical interaction. Marcus Chen understood the deeper significance of this encounter. This was more than a defensive action. It was a demonstration of humanity's most profound technological philosophy, the ability to transform potential conflict into a form of complex, adaptive communication. The Krex fleet continued its assault, growing increasingly desperate as each attack was met with mathematical impossibility. They were confronting something beyond their comprehension, a technological approach that saw conflict as a problem to be solved, not a challenge to be met with brute force. The communication systems of the tsunami began their most intricate performance. This was not traditional electronic warfare, but a sophisticated psychological intervention that would reshape the very foundations of the Krex fleet's operational capacity. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez activated the xenolinguistic interface, a system that was part translation matrix, part complex psychological profiling tool. Years of xenocultural research had produced a technology that could communicate on levels far beyond simple language exchange. The first layer of communication, targeted the Krex fleet's internal communication networks. Encrypted signals began to introduce subtle algorithmic disruptions, not to destroy, but to question. Each packet of information was a carefully crafted mathematical probe designed to create cognitive dissonance within the fleet's hierarchical command structure. Initiating empathetic resonance protocol, Daniel murmured. The phrase barely captured the complexity of what was happening. The Tsunami was essentially creating a form of technological dialogue that challenged the Krex's fundamental understanding of communication and conflict. Aboard the lead Krex vessel, communication officers began to experience something unprecedented. Their standard communication channels started to fragment in ways that defied traditional troubleshooting. Priority systems began to question their own commands, introducing layers of uncertainty that spread like a complex neural network. Captain Marcus Chen observed the progression with a calm that belied the incredible technological ballet unfolding around him. The neural interface allowed him to perceive multiple levels of the engagement simultaneously, each communication vector a potential pathway to understanding. The psychological intervention was multilayered. Where traditional electronic warfare might seek to disable or destroy communication systems, the Tsunami was doing something far more sophisticated. It was introducing complexity, raising questions, creating moments of profound uncertainty. Krex ship commanders found themselves confronting philosophical quandaries embedded within their own communication protocols. Mathematical patterns began to emerge that challenged their understanding of hierarchical decision-making. Each communication packet was a subtle philosophical argument, a probing question about the nature of conflict and expansion. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring from the orbital command center, recognized the deeper strategy. This was not about defeating an enemy, but about creating a transformative moment of understanding. The Tsunami was demonstrating humanity's most profound approach to conflict, the ability to turn potential confrontation into a complex dialogue. The xenolinguistic systems began to introduce increasingly complex communication patterns. These were not simple messages, but intricate mathematical propositions that challenged the Krex's fundamental understanding of strategic engagement. Each communication was a multidimensional puzzle, a way of forcing the Krex to reconsider their approach to exploration and interaction. Lieutenant Aisha Okoro tracked the psychological impact with scientific precision. The Krex fleet's coherence was gradually breaking down, not through direct confrontation, but through a sophisticated introduction of complexity and uncertainty. They're experiencing systemic cognitive challenges, she reported. The phrase was clinical, but it described a profound technological and psychological intervention. The Tsunami was essentially conducting a form of technological diplomacy that went far beyond traditional communication strategies. Communication packets began to include carefully constructed historical and philosophical references. These were not simple data transfers, but complex psychological interventions designed to create moments of profound reflection. The Krex were being invited to reconsider their entire approach to galactic exploration. Aboard the Krex vessels, communication officers found themselves caught in a complex web of uncertainty. Their standard operational protocols were being challenged at the most fundamental level. Each attempt to maintain their original communication strategy resulted in increasingly complex computational feedback loops. Marcus Chen understood the deeper significance of this approach. This was more than a strategic intervention. It was a demonstration of humanity's most profound technological philosophy, the ability to transform potential conflict through understanding, complexity, and sophisticated communication. The Krex fleet continued to receive these intricate communication patterns, each packet a subtle invitation to reconsider their fundamental approach to interaction and exploration. They were confronting a form of technological diplomacy that saw conflict as a complex problem to be understood, not a challenge to be met with aggression. As the psychological intervention continued, the very nature of the engagement began to transform. What had started as a potential confrontation was becoming something entirely different, a complex, multidimensional dialogue that challenged everything the Krex thought they understood about communication and conflict. The hull of the Tsunami began to reveal capabilities that defied conventional understanding of spacecraft design. It was more than a protective layer. It was a living, adaptive system that could fundamentally reshape its molecular structure in response to environmental challenges. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the real-time molecular analysis with a mixture of scientific excitement and profound wonder. Each microsecond brought new revelations about the ship's capabilities. The hull wasn't just absorbing more deflecting energy. It was fundamentally transforming it, redistributing potential threats across complex quantum matrices. Adaptive resonance at maximum efficiency announced the ship's neural interface, but the phrase was a gross simplification of the incredible process unfolding. The Tsunami was demonstrating an approach to material science that challenged everything known about spacecraft construction. Lieutenant Aisha Okoro tracked the molecular transformations through multiple holographic displays. The ship's surface could shift from ultra-dense protection to near-transparent permeability in milliseconds. Incoming energy waves were not just deflected but understood, their fundamental quantum states analyzed and transformed. The Krek's scientific observers, those still capable of maintaining coherent observation, found themselves confronting a technological marvel that defied their most advanced understanding. Where they expected to see a traditional spacecraft, they were witnessing a living system that challenged the very definition of technological capability. Captain Marcus Chen's neural interface allowed him to perceive the ship's transformations on multiple levels simultaneously. He could feel the molecular restructuring, understand the complex computational processes that made such adaptive capabilities possible. It was a form of perception that went beyond traditional human sensory experience. Computational cores within the Tsunami began to demonstrate capabilities that bordered on prescience. The ship wasn't just responding to threats. It was anticipating potential challenges, creating computational models that could predict and neutralize potential issues before they fully materialized. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez monitored the xenotechnological implications. This was more than a defensive system. It was a living proof of humanity's capacity to reimagine technological potential. The Tsunami represented a fundamental shift in understanding how technology could interact with environmental challenges. The ship's adaptive systems continued their impossible performance. Sections of the hull could dynamically redistribute molecular density, creating localized fields of protection that seemed to defy fundamental laws of physics. Energy waves that should have caused catastrophic damage were instead transformed, their potential redirected into complex computational patterns. Quantum entanglement systems began to interact with the surrounding space in ways that challenged traditional understanding of material interaction. The Tsunami wasn't just moving through space, it was fundamentally negotiating its existence with the surrounding quantum environment. They're experiencing technological paradigm collapse, Lieutenant Okoro reported. The phrase captured the profound impact of the Tsunami's capabilities. The Kreks were confronting a form of technological innovation that went far beyond their most advanced understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez recognized the deeper significance of this moment. This was a demonstration of humanity's most profound approach to technological development, the ability to see technology as a living, adaptive system rather than a fixed set of components. The ship's molecular adaptive systems continued their impossible dance. Sections could become virtually impenetrable, then transform to allow specific types of energy or matter to pass through with precise computational control. It was a form of technological communication that went beyond traditional defensive mechanisms. Marcus Chen understood this was more than a technological demonstration. It was a philosophical statement about the nature of technological potential. The Tsunami represented a way of thinking about technology that saw it as a complex, adaptive system capable of profound transformation. Krek's scientific analysis systems continued to break down as they attempted to comprehend the Tsunami's capabilities. Traditional scanning methods revealed nothing. The ship existed in a state of quantum uncertainty that defied conventional observation. As the technological metamorphosis continued, the very nature of the engagement began to transform. What had started as a potential confrontation was becoming something entirely different. A complex, multidimensional demonstration of technological potential that challenged everything the Creks thought they understood about spacefaring capabilities. The Tsunami stood as a living testament to humanity's capacity for innovation, a vessel that was simultaneously a defensive system, a communication platform, and a profound philosophical statement about the nature of technological potential. The communication channels reopened with a complexity that defied traditional diplomatic protocols. Captain Marcus Chen observed the emerging dialogue with a calculated calm that masked the profound significance of the moment. The Creks High Council's primary communication vessel struggled to maintain coherence, where they expected to continue their standard approach of territorial expansion and systemic elimination. They now found themselves confronting a fundamentally different form of interaction. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez activated the advanced sinolinguistic systems. This was more than translation. It was a sophisticated process of cultural and conceptual bridging. Years of research had produced a communication matrix that could navigate the most complex interspecies interactions. Initiating comprehensive communication protocol, Daniel murmured. The neural interfaces hummed with potential, creating a communication environment that was part linguistic exchange, part mathematical dialogue, part philosophical negotiation. The Creks leadership found themselves in unprecedented territory. Their standard communication hierarchies began to fragment, revealing layers of internal complexity they had long suppressed. The Tsunami's communication approach was systematically deconstructing their rigid societal structures, not through aggression, but through a profound invitation to reconsider their entire approach to galactic exploration. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the interaction from the Orbital Command Center. She recognized this as more than a diplomatic encounter. It was a transformative moment that could reshape galactic understanding of interspecies communication. They're experiencing systemic cognitive recalibration, Lieutenant Aisha Okoro reported. Her analysis went beyond traditional diplomatic assessment. The Creks were being invited to reimagine their fundamental approach to interaction, expansion, and understanding. The communication packets sent by the Tsunami were intricate mathematical propositions that challenged the Creks' most fundamental beliefs. Each transmission was a complex invitation to explore alternative perspectives, a diplomatic approach that saw conflict as a problem of understanding rather than a challenge to be eliminated. Marcus Chen understood the deeper strategy. This was humanity's most sophisticated approach to conflict resolution, the ability to transform potential confrontation into a moment of profound mutual understanding. The Tsunami was not just a vessel, but a living demonstration of humanity's most advanced diplomatic thinking. Layers of communication began to reveal the underlying motivations of both species. The Creks' approach of systematic elimination was slowly unveiled as a complex response to deep-seated existential fears. The Tsunami's communication systems began to address these fundamental concerns with a level of empathy and understanding that went far beyond traditional diplomatic exchanges. The neural interfaces allowed for a level of nuanced communication that transcended traditional linguistic barriers. Emotional states, cultural contexts, and complex philosophical concepts could be exchanged with a precision that transformed the nature of the interaction. "We seek understanding, not domination," was the core message transmitted by the Tsunami. But this was far more than a simple statement. It was a complex mathematical and philosophical proposition that challenged the Creks' entire approach to galactic interaction. Creks leadership found themselves confronting a profound philosophical challenge. Their traditional models of expansion and survival were being systematically deconstructed, replaced by an approach that saw diversity and understanding as the primary mechanisms of survival. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez tracked the communications progression. Each transmission was a carefully crafted invitation to reimagine their approach to galactic exploration. The Tsunami was demonstrating a form of diplomatic engagement that saw potential conflict as an opportunity for mutual growth and understanding. The Orbital Command Center buzzed with a sense of profound possibility. This was more than a diplomatic encounter. It was a transformative moment that could reshape understanding of interspecies communication and exploration. As the complex dialogue continued, the very nature of the engagement began to transform. What had started as a potential confrontation was becoming something entirely different, a nuanced, multidimensional exploration of mutual understanding. The Krek's leadership found themselves at a critical juncture. They could continue their traditional approach of systematic elimination, or they could accept the invitation to explore a fundamentally different approach to galactic interaction. Captain Marcus Chen watched the unfolding dialogue with a sense of calm anticipation. The Tsunami represented more than a technological marvel. It was a living testament to humanity's capacity for empathy, innovation, and profound communication. The research teams from multiple alien civilizations descended upon every available data point from the Tsunami encounter. What had begun as a potential conflict had transformed into the most significant technological event in recent galactic history. Dr. Elena Rodriguez oversaw the initial data analysis from the Orbital Command Center. Holographic displays danced with complex mathematical models, each projection revealing layers of technological innovation that challenged fundamental understanding of spacefaring capabilities. "The depth of technological complexity is unprecedented," murmured Dr. Kai Nakamura, a xenotechnological researcher from the Galactic Scientific Consortium. His augmented vision parsed through computational layers that would have overwhelmed traditional analysis systems. The Tsunami's encounter had become more than a military engagement. It was a comprehensive demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to technological development. Alien research teams found themselves confronting a vessel that seemed to blur the lines between technology, intelligence, and adaptive communication. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez managed the controlled data release. This was a delicate process, sharing enough information to demonstrate humanity's capabilities while protecting the most advanced technological insights. Each transmitted data packet was a carefully crafted mathematical puzzle, an invitation to understand rather than a complete revelation. The quantum adaptive technologies demonstrated by the Tsunami challenged everything alien civilizations understood about spacecraft design. Traditional technological paradigms viewed ships as fixed systems, mechanical constructions with predetermined capabilities. The Tsunami existed as something entirely different, a living, adaptive intelligence that could fundamentally reshape its own existence. Lieutenant Aisha Okoro tracked the global research response. Scientific communities across multiple civilizations were experiencing what could only be described as a collective cognitive recalibration. The technological assumptions that had guided galactic exploration for centuries were being systematically deconstructed. Captain Marcus Chen understood the deeper significance of this moment. This was not just a technological demonstration, but a profound philosophical statement about the nature of technological potential. The Tsunami represented a way of thinking that saw technology as a living, adaptive system capable of profound transformation. Research teams began to develop entirely new theoretical frameworks. The traditional separation between biological intelligence and technological systems was becoming increasingly meaningless. The Tsunami demonstrated a form of technological being that defied traditional categorization. "We're witnessing a fundamental reimagining of technological potential," Dr. Nakamura reported during a multinational research conference. Holographic displays showed complex computational models that attempted to deconstruct the Tsunami's capabilities. The most advanced alien research systems began to break down when attempting to fully analyze the encountered technologies. Traditional scanning methods revealed nothing. The ship existed in a state of quantum uncertainty that defied conventional observation. Xenotechnological research teams found themselves confronting a series of profound questions. How could a technological system demonstrate such adaptive capabilities? What was the fundamental difference in philosophical approach that allowed for such innovation? The data packets revealed more than technological capabilities. They were an invitation to reimagine the entire approach to technological development. Humanity was demonstrating a view of technology as a living, adaptive system, something far beyond the mechanical constructions of other civilizations. Quantum computing experts from multiple species began collaborative research efforts. The Tsunami's encounter had created an unprecedented opportunity for technological exchange, a moment of potential mutual understanding that transcended traditional competitive research models. The orbital research centers buzzed with a sense of profound possibility. This was more than a technological demonstration. It was a transformative moment that could reshape understanding of technological potential and interspecies collaboration. As research continued, the implications became increasingly clear. The tsunami represented more than a technological marvel. It was a living testament to humanity's capacity for innovation, adaptive thinking, and a fundamentally different approach to technological development. The galactic scientific community found itself at a critical juncture. They could continue their traditional approach to technological research, or they could accept the invitation to explore a fundamentally different perspective on technological potential. Captain Marcus Chen watched the unfolding research with a sense of calm anticipation. The tsunami had become more than a vessel. It was a profound philosophical statement about the nature of technological innovation, a living demonstration of humanity's most advanced approach to understanding and exploration. The aftermath of the tsunami's encounter reverberated through galactic communication networks with a complexity that defied traditional understanding. What had begun as a potential conflict had transformed into a pivotal moment of interspecies dialogue and mutual recognition. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Command Center, watching the evolving galactic response. The neural interface hummed softly, processing layers of diplomatic and technological implications that stretched far beyond a single encounter. We're witnessing a fundamental transformation of galactic interaction protocols, Dr. Elena Rodriguez observed, her holographic displays dancing with complex communication matrices. The tsunami had become more than a vessel. It was a living testament to humanity's approach to exploration and understanding. Diplomatic channels from multiple alien civilizations began to reconfigure. The rigid hierarchical communication models that had dominated galactic interactions for centuries were being systematically dismantled and reimagined. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rodriguez managed the intricate communication protocols. Each transmission was a carefully crafted invitation to explore a fundamentally different approach to interspecies engagement. The tsunami had demonstrated that communication could be a form of collaborative problem-solving, rather than a mechanism of territorial assertion. The Krex Imperium found itself at a critical juncture. Their traditional approach of systematic territorial expansion was being challenged by a fundamentally different philosophical perspective. The encounter with the tsunami had revealed deep-seated vulnerabilities in their approach to galactic exploration. Lieutenant Aisha Okoro tracked the complex diplomatic recalibrations. Research teams and diplomatic corps across multiple civilizations were beginning to recognize humanity's unique approach to technological and cultural interaction. It's not about domination, Marcus Chen explained during a multinational diplomatic conference. It's about understanding, collaboration, and mutual growth. The statement was simple, but it represented a profound philosophical shift in galactic interaction models. The technological innovations demonstrated by the tsunami began to reshape research and diplomatic approaches across multiple civilizations. Traditional barriers between technological development, diplomatic engagement, and scientific exploration were becoming increasingly meaningless. Alien research teams found themselves collaborating in ways that would have been unimaginable mere solar cycles ago. The tsunami had created a moment of profound possibility, an invitation to reimagine the fundamental approaches to technological and cultural exchange. Quantum communication networks began to develop new protocols inspired by the tsunami's encounter. These were not simply technological improvements, but a fundamental reimagining of how different species could interact and understand each other. The orbital diplomatic centers buzzed with a sense of transformative potential. This was more than a technological demonstration. It was a moment that could reshape the entire approach to galactic exploration and interspecies understanding. Philosophical and technological conferences emerged across multiple worlds, exploring the profound implications of the tsunami's encounter. The vessel had become a symbol of a fundamentally different approach to technological and cultural development. Research teams began developing new theoretical frameworks that challenged traditional understanding of technological and biological intelligence. The lines between technological systems and adaptive intelligence were becoming increasingly blurred. The Krek's leadership found themselves confronting a profound choice. They could continue their traditional approach of territorial expansion and systematic elimination, or they could accept the invitation to explore a more collaborative approach to galactic interaction. Diplomatic channels began to develop new communication protocols that prioritized mutual understanding over territorial assertions. The Tsunami had demonstrated that true exploration was about connection, not conquest. Captain Marcus Chen watched the unfolding transformation with a sense of calm anticipation. The Tsunami represented more than a technological marvel. It was a living testament to humanity's capacity for empathy, innovation, and profound communication. As solar cycles passed, the encounter became a pivotal moment in galactic history. The Tsunami had done more than demonstrate technological capabilities. It had invited an entire galactic community to reimagine the potential of interspecies understanding. The vessel continued its patrol, a silent sentinel of a new approach to exploration. Not as a weapon of domination, but as an invitation to mutual growth, understanding, and collaborative potential. In the vast expanse of space, the Tsunami represented humanity's most profound contribution to galactic civilization, a living demonstration that true exploration was about connection, understanding, and the endless potential of collaborative intelligence.